Orders of the day, none. Approval of minutes for the April 17th board meeting.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of vouchers.
We've got a general fund, $52,127.76. Water fund, $25,941.06. Sewer fund, $11,961.80. They were down quite a bit because we didn't have any real big ones to go after this month, so it seems kind of good. All been audited, and I make a motion we pay them.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Do that.
Okay, groundwater well development project, phase 1. As we talked last time, the equipment was ordered. As it stands right now, equipment's in. It's being put together at the manufacturer's facilities. And they'll start testing it this week. They plan on being on site June 3rd and have it all installed and completed by June 7th. I don't know, do you have anything else on
That's
that?
it, just that they confirmed that schedule today.
So we should be getting phase 1 wrapped up. Groundwater well development project phase 2. That's really gone good. I'll let Matt fill us in, but
Yeah, so
we've got good results.
Last week we had Jay Billings on site with Cascade well drilling to do some test wells. We planned on 8 days to find some sites. They did in 5 days. They found 2 additional. They found a promising site for 2 additional wells. So that was really good. Really good material. Better, he thinks, better than the first 2 wells we developed last year or a couple years ago. So he's going to, Jay Billings is our hydrogeologist. He's going to give us a report next week, and we will then start talking to the village and the municipal board about what steps, what's next, and how do we get the next projects that we have to do to develop these wells, and then ultimately get them connected into your system. So what has to happen and how we're going to fund it. So we'll start talking about that next month.
Well, that was another good thing too, because they're real close to the main line that we put in a year ago. So
Yep.
easy to tie them into our system.
Yep, they're right on that road, or just off of that road.
Anything else?
No, that was it.
Street lighting LED conversion program. Basically, the program's done. We're just waiting for New York Power Authority to give us the final invoice. Talked with them this week. They said they'll be coming here shortly, and Mickey said they found some problems with some of their invoices, so I guess they gotta go back through all of them, right, Mick?
Yeah, they said there was just a couple mistakes on the invoices that they wanted to correct before they sent those on.
Because all the communities, it's not just Lowville, we're all looking for our invoices that were in the program. Zoning changes, you have anything on that, Tim?
I've met a couple of times in the past month, and then again with Kathy Manning. We got the original draft, and then we made quite a few edits last week, and went back to Tug Hill again, and they did make some changes. We're at the point right now where we're taking the Schedule A portion of it, which is permitted uses, and trying to loosen up some of that, because there's a lot of stuff in there that requires special use permit, and there really isn't a lot of need for it per se on some of the uses. So that's where we're at. So we don't really have a final draft to put out there yet.
Veterans Park, basically what it is there is we need to approve the Part 2 and 3 C-Course, so that project can move on. Did you get a chance to review that?
Yeah, so Bernie and Carr, we're working on the secret, this environmental review. Anytime the municipality can fund, approve, or undertake an action. They had provided the long form EAF, Part 1, that the town board desired to serve as lead agent. You adopted the resolution to do that more than a month ago. The inquiry letters went out to the involved agencies. No one responded, which means that you're free to proceed. Bernie Carr did send their proposed EAF Part 2 and then Part 3. I've looked at both of those and I can support them. I don't see any defects or flaws in them, but again, it's your call. So if you think about what would happen is the seeker is supposed to take this hard environmental look. From a practical standpoint, you'd want to make sure that on the record you confirm that you have reviewed the equalization assessment form Part 2 and that you support it. And if you do, then you could indicate whether you support the Part 3. Now, what they didn't do is they didn't give you a proposed resolution for negative declaration, but if you want, I can kind of cover that in a minute if that's where you go with it. Because ultimately, at the environmental review, if you issue the negative declaration for purposes of seeker, that means that we're saying that you've reviewed this potential project. You think that it will not likely have an adverse environmental impact. So you can go forward with the Memorial Park, and you've got to do that first, okay? So right now the engineers are saying they don't see any adverse environmental impacts with it.
You can put them in the other parts.
I can, if you're supportive of it, I can just summarize what the resolution would be. But I mean, the first step would be, if you've received the information from the engineer, have you looked at the long form EAF Part 2, and do you agree with what the engineer recommends? I can tell you on the record, I've looked at it and I support it, but it's ultimately your call. So
Yeah, I've looked at it and I support it.
I supported it too, so.
okay.
So,
I'm fine with it.
Okay, then the next step would be based upon the recommendations of the engineer and also the DPW superintendent and the village attorney, that you are free to consider adopting a resolution. And the resolution would be to adopt and enter a negative declaration for purposes of seeker. And it's SEQR.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't. That's a state, but seeker for the Memorial Park project, and it would be a roll call vote.
okay, I say yes.
I say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Now, what I will do to make it easier, if that's where you're going, I'll actually submit tomorrow for you the seeker negative declaration resolution, so you'll have that for your official records. Because then what happens is, unfortunately, you don't have enough work at the village clerk's office, but we got a filing that takes place, and we'll cover that in it too. Okay, I'll make sure you've got that tomorrow.
Mayor, there's one other thing on the Veterans Park where we're on. At the DRI meeting this morning, the question was raised, do we have an unrestricted deed? Paul is getting the deed, he says what we do, so that we can present that and move forward. Because at one time it was restricted, but that has changed, according to Paul. And so he's getting the deed because one of our engineers has it right now, and we just haven't been able to get it since I talked to him this morning.
Well, see, Dan, that used to be joint owned between the town and village. Now the village owns the whole thing. That's why things have changed. Any other questions on Veterans Park? Okay. Summer recreation. Hope everybody, I sent this out a few weeks ago. I'm hoping everybody have a chance to look it over, and it's in your packet. Basically, that's what they're looking at for costs, and it's more than doubled from last year. But I'm also hearing, if you look down at the bottom, Mike told me the county was going to kick in $100 per participant, and I'm hearing like 5 minutes before this meeting that that's not so.
You want to discuss it? And my original proposal was $100 per up to 200, and they want that to be discussed in committee now because the county feels their share is is out of whack with your actual non-village, non-town participants.
Mr. Norris, I have a question. And Mr. Beagle was at the meeting. Mr. Pesci said, I have $100 a person. He looked at Joe Octor from the town of New Bremen and said, what about you? He says, unlike you, I have to run it by a board. Sounds like Mr. Pesci should have done that too.
Well, I think that's what fell into my lap to do that. And that's, I didn't realize what I was into, but this is what I'm gonna work on.
Here's my comment. Don't make statements if you can't back them, Mr. Pesci. That's it.
See, where I'm coming from is, I received all these figures a couple of weeks ago from Mike. He's the chairman of the
The rec,
Rec
yes.
board.
Yep. I did
And
too.
there was only one figure, which was an AES grant that was up in the area, we didn't know. But figuring on he told me the county was solid on it.
Right.
And so as far as I was concerned then, even though the prices had doubled, we could move forward with this program.
Right.
But my question to the board tonight is, if we don't get that, basically $20,000,
Joe, I realize it's extraordinary circumstances this time of the year too, because of the fact that all the construction going on in the pool and the costs are probably inflated. I'm gonna talk to the town tomorrow and get a hold of the committee chairman tomorrow and see what we can come up with.
Well, the school has, I did find out 2 days ago, we are going to be able to use some rooms at the school and a couple of the gyms. So that's gonna ease
Some of that,
a lot
right.
this. And then as far as the swim program, I believe they're working a deal with Krogan to use their pool pond
Right.
over there.
Here's my frustration.
But where I have a problem with this is normally my board would vote to authorize me to sign a contract with Double Plate tonight, or, because usually we cut them a check in June for 60% of the program, because they need money for startup in July. But I'm almost thinking, we gotta put this on hold tonight, and we'll just have to do everything in June.
Here's my frustration, Mayor. Again, last minute, 15 minutes ago, he finds out from Mr. Pesci. Maybe Mr. Pesci, before he opened his mouth at our rec meeting, should have said, I gotta let Joe Walker run it past my board.
Well, that
I got 3 board members here. Was it ever run by you?
was at least 4 weeks ago, because we were all up at the social services building.
I was trying to get a late resolution last week, and it was suggested that we go through committee because they said that you didn't need the money until July. So,
We need money in June, because they have to have it.
my experience, whatever,
I have a problem with the 15-minute deal.
well,
See, just so you know, every year that we've been doing it with Double Play, we do up a regular contract with them. And part of the contract is, usually in June, we'll cut them a check for 60%. When the program is done at the end of the year, if they give us basically a final invoice, if we're lucky, maybe the prices drop 10,000 or 8,000, and so then we cut the final check to them. But they gotta have money so they can hire and pay their salaries and things to get started in July.
I understand it. That's my fault. I didn't follow through on it. I should have. I'll get with you. I talked to you after the meeting then. See what we can do.
We can have a special meeting if we need to. Because one way or another, we've got to do something.
So what does the board think? Let's hold
We
off on this
gotta
until
hold
June?
off. We gotta hold off until
Right.
yeah, I would say
The rest of our revenue.
And I mean,
better
as it
table
was,
it
the
next
village,
month.
bumped our recreation budget up 10,000 this year over last year, so. And the town took their leftover money from skating, which was 4,000, and put that into the summer rec budget this year also. Okay, so we'll table that to the next meeting. One other thing on recreation, let me see, no, that's farther down, okay, we'll move on. Dan, do you have anything you can share on the PRI? I know a lot of that's,
Yeah, can I go back to summer recreation? We talked last month about getting the summer recreation board more active. Do we want to move forward with that, or based on what's happening, wait another month? I guess maybe we just might as well wait right now. Okay, DRI?
Well, the thing is, on the summer rec, like you were saying, that board, yes, that does need to get more active because I'm going to be asking to reappoint a gentleman at the farther down to the board, and that gentleman told me that he's never been called to a meeting.
There haven't been any from what I've
And that's not good. So, but yeah, go ahead. Whatever you can tell us on the DRI.
DRI. Megan was there this morning, and myself, and we had a 2-hour meeting, and the state was there, Kylie Peck was there, and Steve Hunt, and our consultants from Chicago, and I can't think of the name of the company, and it was very informative. At 5 o'clock today, at the Historical Society, will be another open session for the public to ask questions. And the public, there's a meeting schedule that has been developed that will be up on our DRILowville.org website. And you'll be able to get all the information there. People that want to apply for a grant that are within the footprint of the boundaries of the DRI grant are welcome to do so. And the process will go from there, and we evaluate them and vote on them. Tim Woodrick was there too also. And Chuck, sorry Chuck. Yeah.
It's okay, Dan. I was in the background.
Lucky you. But anyways, I guess, Megan, did anybody else that was there want to add anything?
I thought it was pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
It
it was
was.
a general overview of the whole process for the local planning committee, basically.
It seems like it's very structured. I think they, with dates and times and things like that, I think it's going to be real interesting to watch it through to the end.
I know Cheyenne Stereo has taken a lead role kind of in it. And I know there's others that have worked on it, but I can't tell you the scope of who's done what, but they worked hard on that, so they deserve credit for that. I guess that's all I have to say on that, Mayor.
And I will say one thing about that I want on record too again, is that a lot of people out there thinking that it's going to be up to the village board to do a lot of the stuff with this. And actually, it's going through with the state and through the consulting outfit. I mean, it doesn't have much to do with us at all.
We
Yeah,
submit
most of
the
the
projects and they tell us which ones pass and which ones don't.
So there's going to be a lot of people saying to village board people, hey, can we get money for this? Can we get money for that? And it's
I encourage
go through the
people to
procedure.
come. I would not like to hear, geez, this and that. There's going to be every opportunity for people to come to these meetings and hear what's going on. I am very, very confident with the process. Michelle Ledoux and myself are the co-chairs, and I think the process is going to be good. So please come to one of the hearings and find out what's going on.
There's another meeting tomorrow as well at Crumbs, I think.
8:30 in the morning.
Okay, 8:30 to 10.
Yeah.
And again, that's on
8:30.
DRILowville.org.
Yes.
And I've already been on it this afternoon just to see
Yeah,
what it is. and
everything's there.
It's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a good website. Okay, new business. Budget amendments, general water and sewer funds. And a motion for those.
Motion to approve as submitted. I guess we can bundle all three together, general water and sewer funds.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Peddler's permit. And basically all we want to do on this, Jim, is change on number 137-7, A and B, where it says village clerk, we'd like it to say police chief. My question, do we need to change the whole law?
Nope.
Or can we just change those two words?
Yeah, it's just a simple amendment, but this is a local law, so what you have to do is you've got to have a local law in front of you at least 7 days in advance. You've got to schedule a public hearing, and so the most you could do is if that's what your proposed change is to set a public hearing for a date in the future. I can give you tomorrow, then if you want to notice a public hearings, you've got that for your records, if that's what the pleasure is of the village board. And then I can give you the proposed legislation to.
Do we want to have that next month, Mayor?
Well, I want to talk to Daryl here, let him chime in. I mean, basically Daryl and I talked, we were thinking about the office staff possibly doing away with the peddler's permit, but Daryl, and I agree with him, he wants to know who's wandering through the village. So that was our suggestion, to make it easy for everybody, because we did have a couple instances where they tried to give the girls in the office a hard time, and Daryl pretty much had to step in and straighten them out. So it would just be simpler if everything runs through the police department, and the only thing the girls have to deal with in the office is collect any fees. Do you have any comments on that, or?
No, I agree with you. That way, we have some paper trail who's peddling what in the village, and it worked. Well, a month ago? Not even a month ago. We had an instance where someone was peddling. I denied their application because their criminal background, and that's when they came back and gave the girls a hard time, and they peddled anyway. So they were told once to stop, and they didn't, so they got arrested. It's just a good paper trail, so we know who's here, who's doing what.
Not only that,
They're not locals doing it.
it's taxpayers that run a legitimate business in town in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. It's $25. It's easy. It's not a hard application by anything. So.
And we don't have the ability to check somebody's background.
Right.
That's kind of, so.
Yeah, so it's just changing the final say from the village clerk to our office. That's all.
Do you want it to be you as a police chief, or
designee? Yeah, the
Okay.
police chief or designee probably. Matt can do it too.
Okay. I can make that change. The first step in the process would be then, if that's what your pleasure is to look to set a public hearing for a date, time, and place.
Okay, Dan, what date do you want for that? June
19th? If that's when you want it, that's our next meeting.
No, the next one, we'll have everything by the next meeting, right?
Okay, June 19th, the holiday.
Yes,
Oh,
it is.
Juneteenth, that's true.
So we're gonna change our meeting day?
Yeah, we're not here. Wow. The office is right up.
Which brings up another point, if that's a holiday, do we want to move our board meeting to the 18th?
I'll make a motion because of the holiday that we move our village board meeting to Tuesday, June 18th at 4 o'clock.
Second on
4
that?
PM.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed? Okay, now you want to do the public hearing on that date too, John? Or
Yeah,
Dan?
I'll do the motion for
So it'll
that.
be the 18th at 4 o'clock. You make
So,
that motion?
I make the motion.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Opposed? All right. Takes care of that one. Park reservations, basically, what that's all about is, and you probably got them in, didn't know if anybody would want to. Personally, I think what we have in place right now is fine. I don't think we need to change it. This is just some information from other municipalities, how they go about it. And I guess the other question is, we did waive the fee for the community cup. Do we want to leave that fee in there for the use of the park or waive that $25 for everybody?
Community Cup's canceled.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Yes, I know it's can't, I just heard that today too, so. About 10 minutes to 4.
I don't see any reason to leave that in there. I think we can, what was the reason?
Waive it for everybody.
I mean, what is the, other than cleanup
Basically,
costs, what is-
basically the $25 was mainly there in case we had to go in, and that doesn't even cover our expense, but originally it was if we had to clean up after the roof. And that doesn't even cover that case.
So I guess that's why I'm wondering why you would want to reduce it.
Can I tell you?
I think we don't put in those.
Yeah, well, you do. So what we checked, Pam and I looked at other places that had parks that do not charge for the use of the park. So we're thinking, like if somebody has a wedding, maybe 4 or 5 people, we're having to charge them $25 to use the park. So maybe just the charge for the electric, if they need electric, that's what we were thinking. I mean, we want people to use the park, right?
Yeah.
So that was the thought.
Well, that was my thought, charge for the electric, but
Yeah.
Which is
but it's up to the board.
Yeah, if they need electric. And if they didn't, just notify us you'd like to use the park and there's no charge. That's what Pam was researching.
We want to make sure we know what the event is and that they absolutely know that there's no alcohol.
Mhm.
Other than
Yeah.
that, I don't have a problem with it.
We don't get that many requests anyway, do we?
No, and usually the bigger groups get run by you guys anyway.
I see no reason why we can't waive that fee then. I'll make a motion, we do that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Lewis County Amateur Hockey Association. This is basically an agreement between the Village of Lowville and the Lewis County Amateur Hockey Association. I don't think James has had a chance to go through this yet, so we don't really need to vote on this tonight. But basically what this is where we're going to be helping the Hockey Association with chiller expense. The town and the village both are helping them. Both the town and village feel we should have some kind of an agreement. So say the Hockey Association collapses in, say, a year or 2 down the road, that the town and village has a recourse to get some of their funds back or have a claim basically on the chiller. But I say we don't need to act on this tonight. Ray Meyer drew it up, but
Yeah, I
Jim
just,
hasn't had a chance to look at it yet.
he emailed me today and included the proposed document. I just haven't had a chance to go through it yet.
And they don't even, we won't even be paying for anything until we got an invoice, and they just got their unit ordered in, so it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's what this is all
Definitely
about.
table that. We should definitely table that.
Yeah, yeah, I say till next meeting, but I mean, I just wanted you guys to know what it's all about. Just basically to protect the village, so if we need to down the road, we'll recoup any funds we put into that. Recreation Commission reappointment. I'd like to reappoint Jerry Carrier to the end of year 2029. It's a 5-year appointment. He's willing to stay on, but he would like a phone call for a meeting.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What we're talking about that, Mayor, the 2 gentlemen that are on it with him from the village, as individuals, I have no problem with, but I believe they've got a conflict of interest. Danny Myers runs Double Play, and Ed Murphy is the president of Double Play Board. So I don't think it's compatible to be on the rec board as long as they would, I would say, have to make a choice of one or the other. Am I correct, Mr. Burrows?
Gut instinct, yeah, you're gonna find, I think it's Article 18 of the general municipal law deals with potential conflicts and how they're addressed. You also would have a code of ethics that you adopt every year. And from what I understand from you, it would appear to be a potential conflict of interest that ought to be considered. And my instinct is as a result would probably be the recusal. That just shoot it from the hip.
Could you redo that first?
I could, but I think that's where you're going with it. But normally what happens is one of the individuals would raise the question. And if
So we
there's
should ask them
conflict,
to step down and put somebody else.
that's what would normally happen, yes.
Step down or step down from the other board?
Yes.
So you gonna do that, man?
Well, let's find a couple people to replace him first. That is willing to replace him. Yeah, that's not a problem. I can talk to you.
I can give you some names. I won't do it right here, but I'll give them to you.
Okay, authorize and sign contracts. We have a contract with the library, the band. The library contract's $5,000. The band is $4,000. Senior citizens is $750. And I would say double play we just put on hold with the rest of the recognition for tonight. So I'm just asking for authorization to sign the library, the band, and senior citizens.
I'll make a motion, we sign those contracts.
The fire department should be on that too.
Oh, I don't have it.
I see.
That's right, we did switch the fire department where we were paying them in June,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay, the fire department contract, and that's 60-some thousand, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that figure, but I know it's around 67,000. But the library band and senior.
Also, the senior citizens is 500.
500.
Yeah.
I thought that was only, I thought that was
No,
750.
500.
Okay, they,
The fire department should be in your packet. It's 74,045.84. Should be in your packet.
Where's this compensation?
oh, okay. We just need a motion to,
I'll make a motion, we sign those contracts.
second.
No, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm not gonna say double play, we'll handle it at the June meeting.
Mayor, I got one other thing for new business. I spoke to you about this way back when I had to resign and then be reappointed again on the village election. When I was at the election office, and actually I've been there since then for another issue, the village of Lowville is the only municipality now in the county that has their own election. So, I mean, I just audited the bill that the last election here was $2,100. So I spoke just for information, and I want the board to know this, that you have to, if in fact we would go to a November election, we'd have to do it by August 5th of this year. We would have to make that decision, public hearing, local law, the whole deal before then. Next year, I spoke with Lindsay today, just because it came back into my mind. Next year's election, which we're gonna have because of me being a vacancy again, is $1,700. And then she said, you know, she can't confirm this, but then every year after that, it would be approximately $1,700, $2,000, whatever. The way it would work, if we did go to a November election, there wouldn't be an election this spring, this coming spring. My appointment would be up in November, and then yours, Mayor, and Tony's, which actually comes up in 2026, would be moved to November of 2026. So you wouldn't be shortened, you would actually be lengthened too. So I just wanted to bring that up for discussion and what the board thought about it, and maybe what the public thinks about it. It is, you know, a couple $1,000 every 2 years, right?
So that would, we went to a November election, would be like every 4 years or every 2?
No, it still would be
Still
up
have
to 2
every 2
years.
years.
Still have-
2 years, but then there would be other things on the ballot. She explained to me that the village election would be down below, it's separate, it wouldn't be a part of the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Did she have any idea what it would cost if we went to November?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Won't cost us anything.
Be partisan. I personally am in favor of leaving our election in March.
Yeah, I know how me and Dan have spoken about this. I know how he feels about it. I'm just putting it out there because I think it's something that the public should know about. It is taxpayer dollars.
I'm in favor of having it in March.
What's that, Dan?
I'm in favor of having it in March. I think it gives us our own autonomy. It's nonpartisan.
And we really, I mean, it's something that we probably, if we did anything, we would have to start by next month
That's what I
because
was thinking, by
June, July, public hearing, and then approve it, and then it would have to be submitted by August 5th.
Can it still be nonpartisan if it's in November?
Yes.
I think that it can. Now, I mean, I wasn't aware of this topic, but yeah, I think what you're be looking at is you have to go through the process to hold a public hearing and adopt a local law. I believe that type of local law is subject to mandatory referendum under the municipal home rule law. That would then trigger, that would, in the August 5th date, they changed the election law a few years ago to the point that when you adopt legislation like that, you've got to be able to submit the proposition to the Lewis County Board of Electors no later than that date. As long as it gets to them by that date, which means if everything else has already been taken care of and the local law is adopted, they can then put it on the ballot this November, which would then say the voters in November could decide whether to make the change from March to November in the future. So there'd be a lot of steps that take place, but I think you're right that the August 5th date is really the key date.
Today.
Yeah, I think that they changed the election law a couple of years ago, and that was one of the stumbling blocks. So again, to recap, you have the discretion to do that. If you go down that pathway, you adopt legislation, which is a local law, go through that process, subject to mandatory referendum, which means it's got to be voted on by the voters, and it either be a special election or general election, but with a timing. If you got it in by August 5th, if that was all done, the Board of Elections could put it on the November election for the voters to decide that question. Now, if you do it, I think that you can still keep it as a nonpartisan election in November. I believe you can, but I just want you to know that if you're even thinking about it, there's a lot of steps you'd really have to be moving relatively quickly, because it's that August 5th date. It's going to drop that date.
Are you saying we would have to have an election for the people to vote on whether they want us to change it or not?
Yeah. Yes. So again, the question of change. Villages normally have their elections in March. There's a provision where, if you wish, villages can change their elections so that your elections take place in November. But to do that, to change it from March to November, there's a lengthy process you go through. That process is you have to adopt a local law, like your zoning matters, a local law. But the trick is that local law is subject to mandatory referendum. So even if you support it, and even if the majority of you support it, it will not be effective unless the voters then vote on it. Now, the key on the voters voting on it is it dovetails with the Lewis County Board of Elections. Lewis County Board of Elections will be following the newer election laws, and they'll say, well, wait a minute, if you want to have the voters vote on it, you can't do it unless your local law, everything's adopted, and they have it by August 5, because on August 5, they have to have the proposition so they can include it this fall for the November election. And then all that would happen in November would be the voters in the village would vote on whether to change the election from March to November. And that's all that they would be voting on. But there's a lot of steps between now and then, if you were even inclined to go down that pathway.
Think well.
I'm just wondering, you have everything done before August 5th, if you wanted to change it.
So round numbers with a local law, round numbers. if you said that you wanted me to put paperwork together and I started on it from start to finish, it usually takes around 60 days to have your local law adopted, give or take, okay? Because special meetings, but around under 60 days. And what I'm saying is that 60 days, that has to be on or before August 5, because if it was approved by you, the Lewis County Board of Elections has to then perform its services. That's a deadline date from their perspective.
What you're saying is if we want to change it this year, November, if we want to change it, we have to jump through all those hoops,
Yes.
so to speak,
And it's
by August 5th.
Yes, you have to do, yeah, and really it's August 4th, because we've got to
Right.
make sure that, and what they're going to look for is a proposition that's going to be, one sentence, shall the general election for the village of Lowville be conducted in November of any given year? A proposition like that. If you got it all done, and if the voters voted on, and if the voters approved it, what would happen, to shoot from the hip, is in the future elections then would use the November cycle. Now, what I don't know is how does that dovetail into the terms of office? Ordinarily, you can't change a term of office. So an elected official, usually they get their term of office. It normally cannot be shortened in that process. So normally what would happen is and again, shoot from the hip, because I've done a little bit with other communities on it. What would happen is if you adopted that local law, got it done timely, and the voters supported it, then what would happen is in the future, when one of your terms of office would expire, the voters wouldn't vote on it in a March, they would vote on it a few months later, they'd vote on it in November. That's normal, so it actually would extend the term of office. Normal is what I would think.
That's exactly what she told me.
Okay. I'm going to defer to the Lewis County Board of Elections. They're the experts, they deal with those issues. But that's probably how it takes place.
So, just to be clear, we need to make a decision
I'd almost think.
now.
Yeah, but I'd almost think, let's not rush this.
No, I'm agreeing with you,
Let's
because
think about it, and
if we don't
decide
make
we want
that-
to do it,
but
then
that-
next year.
that's what I'm trying to explain, is if we don't make a decision tonight,
Yeah, you gotta.
it's not being made this year,
Unless you have some kind of special.
because we don't
I'm
have
not
60 days.
proposing any of that, I'm just putting out there what I was told.
Okay. That was just my point, is realistically, we can't change it this year.
Waiting until next year would cost the village another election, $1,700.
But it's going to cost to put all this together too.
So I don't know if we want to put that on the agenda to talk about again, or talk about it in a different aspect. Is that something that could be discussed in executive session, or no?
No, that general topic is not one of the exceptions under 105 of the Public Officers Law. It's a public matter.
I think the board should have time to digest.
Yeah, I
all
agree.
this.
I agree.
Let's bring it back up
I agree.
next month.
I agree, absolutely.
And like I say, it might not happen November 24, but if it's going to happen, work towards 2025 to have it happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't really make a difference. The only, and like I said, I have to rerun next March anyway. Either way, if it got changed this year, I wouldn't. But the only thing it would affect you and Tony is it would extend yours from that March 2026 to November 2026 if you did change.
And the only other twist with all of that is going back to this good old New York State. And one of the many things I don't know about is they changed the law on elections, the even year elections. But there have been a couple court challenges, at least that I'm aware of, with that. The dust hasn't settled, and so the law that was adopted more recently, the intent is going to be to try as much as possible to have local elections, whether they're town or village or city elections, to make sure that those elections typically occur on even years. at the same we'd see at a state level or the national level. And again, that's been contested in course. I haven't heard that, but that's, like it or not, if that stands, that will have an impact on all elected officials.
Ours are on even years right now. Right?
Yep.
Wow. All right. Sorry about that time frame.
Rate correspondence, recall updates, everybody's got a copy of those. Mickey, you got anything you want to say on that before we move on? Or?
I'll just mention that the meeting is going to be May 30th at 6 o'clock for Raycog. It'll be at Town of Wilmot, and it'll be the Watertown Jefferson County Transportation Council is going to be there, as well as Lewis County Planning is going to be there to talk about programs and stuff. Related to that, I'll mention that there's a transportation survey that went around for Raycog, and what we're looking for are projects that communities are looking, that they view are important in their community, that they'd like to see done, whether it's even walkability or pedestrian related. The idea behind that is we can share some of those results at the next Raycog board meeting, as well as we can look at a traffic, maybe including some of that in a traffic safety plan, which would allow us to go after funding for digital radar signs or other things like that. So that's kind of what we're looking at too for that. There's also the COG survey that's still out there. We're trying to finish that up. April Rojo is back from sabbatical there in June. She said she'd be happy to meet with any communities that had any questions with that survey, because she knows it's kind of complicated. But she would sit down with you. Just let me know and I can coordinate that. We do have some state officials that are interested in the results of that. The biggest thing's probably been the local government student activity. So this is something new. We're trying to follow up how to get youth involved with local government. And I know Vincent here behind me shared about maybe getting Lewis County Youth Bureau involved. I contacted them. They didn't have enough students really for what we're looking to do. I think there's only 4 students right now that are active in that. So we met with BOCES and we pitched the thing. And the schools now have a thing called Seal of Civic Readiness that they can get on their diplomas. And so with that in mind, we thought this was a good opportunity to work with the schools on this to get students involved. So we created a program working with BOCES that we're calling the Civic Service Student Activity Program, and it'll be a 2-day program for students that'll be attending. We're hoping to get 4 students from each school district, and there's 7 school districts with 28 students. The first day would be in October, like towards the end of October, and it'd be more of like presentations, having representatives from state government, local government, not-for-profits, fire departments, those type of things, to speak of how they got involved with, what they do and why they're involved in their community, and then have them be like mentors throughout the day for the students as they break out into different activities. One's even budgeting and so forth, and one's pretend that they're board members and they have to solve, issues. So that's the first day, and then the second day is field trips, which will be in May, and that's where we might go visit like a water treatment plant. So be ready, because I know we're looking at lots. So I might be asking about that. Visiting the courthouse, visiting the fire department, things like that, and taking them around and doing that. And so they need 40 credits for this seal of civic readiness. This potentially could give them 12 credits right there. And this program starts from when they're 9th grade to 12. So this would give them a good shot to get started. So we pitched it to 7 school counselors last week, and it seemed to be received very well. And it's pretty much a turnkey program that we worked out with BOCES. So it sounds like that's probably going to happen. Other than that, I'll just mention we do have our Fort-Drum intern, Paul Shepard, who's still kind of floating out there right now. He's still working with us, and he's from Fort Drum. He's a lieutenant colonel from there, and he covers meetings every now and then still. So he's actually got some interest in continuing as associate circuit rider afterwards too. So that might be something to bring up at the next Raycog board meeting. Other than that, that's what I got. Unless you got questions. Oh, I will mention the Naturally Lewis Conference on June 12th, and then there's the Black River Watershed Conference on June 13th.
Thank you, Mickey. A New York Pizzeria liquor license application. Basically, that's just informing us that they applied for a liquor license. And if we have any concerns or questions, to get back to their attorney. Do you have any problems with it?
No, you had one before.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, you said it before.
Probably just a renewal. Yep. And then Lewis County Planning, their approval of the joint, from the Joint Planning Board in regards to the building at 7394 Utica Boulevard, State Route 12. They approved it with some conditions. And that brings us down to officer and committee reports. Village attorney.
Nothing to report.
I have one thing, June 1st, there's going to be a scavenger hunt downtown. And they got a lady by the name of Patty Gorby, asked permission to use the Lions parking lot. Basically, she used to work with the Main Society, now she's basically on her own. And she'd like to be able to set up a table and maybe a small tent and come with some small animals and things there. And she will provide us with a certificate of insurance, but she'd like to be able to use that space for a few hours. And Paul and I thought we could maybe just have our guys drop off a couple barricades and just close the entrance there where you go out onto Exchange Street and let her use the area. But it's up to the board whether you want to let her. I know the Lions have used it in the past for different projects that they've been involved with.
So moved.
Dan moved to do that, and I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Wendy, you will get a hold of her and tell her we need insurance?
Yes.
You got her number, you want me to give you this?
No, I found it.
We found it, no. Well, hopefully, she'll get a few animals rescued that day.
Yeah.
Clerk treasurer, did Brittany give you anything?
She said it's in your packet.
That's, her monthly report of the treasurer, yeah, it's in the packet. Chief of Police, do you have anything?
Just one big item. We hired a female recruit. It was fast and it happened quick. The sheriff's office, she was a dispatcher at the sheriff's office, 21-year-old Randa Burgoyes. And we got her paperwork done and got her submitted, and she started the academy already on Monday. So she's in Utica for the next 6 months.
Awesome.
So if everything goes good, she should be like road ready around the 1st of February.
Superintendent, anything?
Sure. It's been a busy month. We've had a few water main breaks. That's DPW did a great job restoring water in a hurry. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which was a big uproar in the village of Lowville, was the tree removal. Just wanted to let people know the reason why it was done. The last year or so, 2 years, I've been out looking at the trees on Main Street, and from the aspect of we have a tree man here, the roots were starting to grow underneath the sidewalk, and they were starting to, the bases of the trees were starting to get bigger and bigger. So we were trying to be proactive by taking those big trees down, and we are going to replace them with, every other spot will have a pot, a flowering pot, and I'm working with a local landscaping company, and they're going to find us a smaller tree where the roots won't expand underneath the sidewalk. We also had issues with the DOT because a lot of the trees are covering up the signs, so that's the reason why it was done. That's all I have.
Personnel? No.
Capital.
I would,
You missed one.
Capital.
Oh, he stepped out.
I've got it.
You got it?
Paul has provided us with the year, we still don't have he's gonna work on estimated value of the equipment we have as of today. Police vehicles are on it also. And once we get that done, we will move forward on a schedule for replacement of these, best guesstimate. And then I would like to get started on the 22 miles of streets. And I guess we're just gonna have to score them as best we can. And planning for the future is tough from a money standpoint, but from a year standpoint, it's something that should be on a process where it's always there. So it's moving forward, and I'll make sure that Tony gets a copy of this, or Paul, would you give Tony a copy of this in the morning? Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
I'd just like an executive session for a possible resolution to be added to our personnel handbook. Discuss that. Finance, anything? Lazen's Fire Department, he's stepped out. Okay, we'll jump to Police Department.
Oh, there he is.
Did you have anything on the Fire Department for Lazen?
Nope.
Nope.
Sorry. Does Joe have anything?
I have some stuff.
Just so you guys are aware, June 8th, which is a Saturday, we are hosting the Northern New York convention, firefighters convention this year. They changed their bylaw. It used to be a multiple day event. Now they changed their bylaws, which allows it to be done in one day, which was really good. We wouldn't have hosted it if it had to be over multiple days, but because it's allowed to be in one day, they didn't have anyone volunteer, so we volunteered for it. The layout of the day, the meetings start at 9 a.m. I would invite any of the board members that would want to go to those meetings. They take place during the morning. A lot of the legislation that Northern advocates for is discussed. A lot of New York State stuff is discussed at those meetings concerning fire departments directly, so it would be a good educational experience, I think, if any of you would like to go to that. Especially for those who don't know, the state implemented a new incentive program for firefighters. That will probably be discussed. The state's looking at changing how much firefighters get on their tax refund that they get. So some of that will be discussed. And then the other big part, which will probably be discussed in depth, is, for those who don't know, OSHA and PESH are currently working on a rewrite of their safety standards concerning fire departments. And that is currently in the review period, so I assume that will be discussed in depth at that meeting over any recommendations that that entity would have for that standard that's getting released. So the meetings are at 9 o'clock in the morning. They do take most of the morning, so I would assume they'd be done before noon. There is a luncheon at the person's cost at the American Legion that day. Or I'm sorry, not the Legion, the Marine Corps League is where the luncheon is being held. At 1 o'clock at St. Peter's Church is the memorial service and the Firefighter of the Year Award. So that is where they honor all the firefighters who have passed away over the last year in the entire region. They call out each name, they explain what department they were with. So that's a pretty humbling experience just to sit through that. And then the Firefighter of the Year is given to firefighters who have performed life safety tasks throughout the year. We're none of us, I don't know who's getting that this year, but so that's a part of that service. At 6 o'clock in the evening, we will be having a parade. The parade is going to start at the Elks Club, go up East State Street, turn onto Trinity, and then down Trinity across State Street and end behind the fire hall. So it's not going to hinder the main road except for what little bit it will take to get across that traffic there. We decided not to go right up the main drag because of hindrance of traffic and things like that, so we figured that would be nicer. So again, it's going to go up East State, start at the Elks Club, up East State, down Trinity, across, and then end behind the fire halls where that parade is going to go. That's at 6 o'clock. And then after the parade, we will have entertainment that's yet to be decided, whether, I think we'll probably do a DJ type thing at the fire hall afterwards. That is open to the public. I don't believe that's going to cost anything. If it does, I'll make sure it's released ahead of time that it does, but I think that's going to be a free entertainment night for anyone who wants to come to that. So that is the convention, like I said, being hosted on June 8th by us. The other thing to touch base on, the Memorial Day Parade is coming up. I believe there's going to be a new route for that this year.
Just shorter.
It's going to be a shorter route, so I think we're starting at the Legion. We're going to go down to the main four corners, still up to the church, around, and then back behind the fire hall. So basically we're cutting off the bottom half of town. We're not going to be starting up on Jackson Street anymore, so it will also shorten the amount of time that Route 12 has to be closed. So just so everyone's aware of that, especially the public, if you did want to watch that, it's going to be a much shorter route this year. You can't just go anywhere on State Street. It'll be North State Street up to the church for that. And then the only other thing I had, I forgot to send it in email, but we did vote in a new member, Mike Cano. He was a transfer from Glenfield. He lives in the village here, but he was a member of Glenfield, so he transferred into our department. So I submit his name to the board for approval for membership, and then we had 2 resignations that we accepted of Alexi Halad and Luke Teal. So I would just ask for the board's approval on them membership changes and additions. So.
Do we want to make a motion to approve the
I'll make a motion.
change?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we won't have to put it on next month's. Okay. Planning board, zoning board, anything?
Nope, nothing.
Municipal board,
Next week, maybe.
town, anything?
Tomorrow.
Here tomorrow. County, anything?
No, I did attend the meeting. It was actually a very short meeting, not much going on.
Okay, recreation, we've already kicked that around. Do you have anything more on that?
Yeah, music in the park. The roster of bands is complete. Brian Trainer has lined up for us. Very grateful to him again this year for doing that. 6 bands. I will tell you in the June meeting the dates. Well, the dates are every Tuesday, starting with the last Tuesday in June, with the foregoing Fair Week, and figure on 6 Tuesdays. And I know we have Doc Yukon, a band out of Watertown that we've never had before, Bill Burkhardt again, Fritz and the Polka Sizzlers, and a couple of other ones. So, like I said, the dates will be released. I talked with Brian. We're going to promote that more this year on Moose, and hopefully we'll have flyers out through the village. And the car show isn't going to be on Tuesdays there anymore, so at this point in time, I don't know if there will be refreshments or not. We had a chance to talk with Joe, and I know that in talking with the Legion, the refreshments even with us there, and the car show was having the same amount of people, or it wasn't hardly worth doing. So at this point, I don't know if we'll have refreshments, but the music will be there. You can go there on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday night you can go back and listen to, or Thursday night, whatever night. I think it's Wednesday night, Village Band. So there's a chance to use the park.
There's also a possibility maybe we can get a food truck to come in on different nights.
Yeah.
Dan, if it rains and it's at...
Oh, thank you. We will not be rained out. If it's raining, we will, and we did it once last year, at least once, with Doc Yukon in the pavilion at the fairgrounds. So we will have music without fail, unless we have a severe thunderstorm or we don't have power.
Rachel, we've been over that. Bring us down to public comment. Anybody have a public comment?
All right, good evening to our esteemed village board members and those of you who are attending this meeting tonight. For those of you who are unfamiliar with who I am, my name is Megan Hellinger. I'm the owner of several small businesses in the village downtown, the Bateman Draft House, Munch, and Drift Day Spa. I also come to you as a member of the Lowville Business Association, a village resident and a concerned taxpayer. On April 30th, I looked out the windows of my establishment and noticed the trees and commented to my husband how excited I was that the trees were about to bloom and filling out nicely. On the morning of May 1st, I received frantic calls and text messages that our trees were being cut down. We heard numerous rumors and reasonings as to why the purpose of that was happening. We were told many things, however, the reasoning still didn't add up. First, we were told it's covering signage, which is against state DOT regulations. However, looking down the street side, those trees are nowhere near the signage. If you look down, the trees that do remain in either direction, signs are fully engulfed and covered, and yet they remain. Not only were these trees beautiful and adding greenery to our downtown, but they also provided homes for birds who have now sought homes in the eaves of our freshly restored awnings at the Bateman. If you're familiar with the damage birds cause, you'd understand why we're concerned. Wildlife aside, they also provide shelter from the relentless sun that peeks over the buildings across the street and into our businesses. Today I attended the first DRI meeting. We were asked to participate in a group activity to create a postcard addressed to a future individual and how the DRI had come to fruition. Of the dozen or so members of this board, almost every single individual mentioned having trees. One board member commented that on his initial trips to our village, before he moved here officially, he took notice of the trees and how welcoming it made the downtown feel. There's talk of replacing the trees with those that are a better fit, which I sincerely hope is true. There's also talk of replacing every other tree with flower pots, to which I have to say is a pretty silly investment. Who will maintain these flower pots after the village deems them a pain to maintain? Who will ensure that passerbys are not discarding their trash into them, as it's already happening to the few flower pots that we currently have? As a business owner, taxpayer, and village resident, I'm concerned that we're going to repeat a pattern, and after the tax money has been spent, the manpower has been utilized. At the end of the day, we're repeating an already failing process. This is not a dig, Paul, this is not a dig at you. This is not a dig at those who made the decision to take the measures that they did for whatever the reasons may have been. But let's be honest, this isn't about the trees. This is my bringing awareness to the board today in hopes that we do not repeat these mistakes. In hoping future decisions such as these will be met with a different approach rather than executive decisions. With all of that being said, expect to see me at these meetings regularly and often. I truly appreciate the efforts of this board continuing to make this village as perfect as it can be. Thank you for your time.
Any other public comment? I guess I guess I got it. It's not a comment. I guess it's more a question. I understand the park has always had the fee for the reservations, but in the past, when people have asked for a reservation to use the park, Dan has always kind of jumped on it about having liability insurance for people wanting to use the park. Is that going to be an effect, or is that by a group It depends on the size of the decision? group, basically. Like say 3 or 4 people want to go over there and use it, no, we're not going to be looking for insurance, but like say there's a group of 20 people or 30 people going in there for a wedding, then we might be looking for something. That's going to stay in place, it's just the usage is going to go away.
Okay, so it's the size of the group, then it affects whether
And
whether you got to have the insurance.
And what the group wants to do.
I was asking for my friend.
It was like, it got canceled, but the community cup they were talking. That was gonna be a large group. They were gonna be playing soccer or different things. So there's a chance for somebody that could fall, get hurt. So that's why, like with them, we would have wanted, and they did give us, but then it got canceled. Just basically protecting the village, insurance, extra insurance.
I'm just wondering, that's all.
Any other public comment? I guess we need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
All in favor? Opposed?
Purpose would be to discuss personnel matters.
I don't want you to say things that okay, and so today we had our